After the longest wait that teams, prospects, and fans have ever had to endure, the 2020 NBA draft is officially in the books. Though there weren't as many transactional fireworks as we might have expected at the top, the night didn't go by without its fair share of surprises. Hello, friends, and welcome to this very special edition of Strictly Sports. As tonight, we are going to recap the 2020 NBA draft. You're like, 2020 NBA draft? Shouldn't you be this isn't June? Yes, I know it's not June. Obviously, because of COVID and everything else, we got pushed back several months. So that's why we're here tonight to give you our thoughts, team by team grades and analysis, as we always do. I am your host, Anthony Florio. I am joined by good old MF Michael Fletcher. We are awaiting the presence, perhaps, of Michael Bullock. If he comes in, we'll catch him up on what he missed. If not, then we'll see him tomorrow night at this time for our 9th annual Strictly Sports Football Feast. So with all that being said, let's dive right on in. And we start at the beginning because that's how you always start. Alphabetical order, as we always do. And we started off with the Atlanta Hawks. And they selected at number 6, Onyeka Okongwu out of USC. And at number 50, they drafted Skylar Mays. Drafting Onyeka Okongwu at number 6 is a confounding selection on its face for Atlanta, which acquired Clint Capella in a trade just last season. But Okongwu was considered by some talent evaluators as the best big man in this draft, presenting good value at that position despite the current roster construction. As for Mays, the Hawks found an underrated combo guard who has the playmaking and shooting to be a potential fit next to Trae Young in the backcourt. My grade, B- for the Atlanta Hawks. So not much more to say. Good old MF Michael Fletcher, come on in. Let's kick it off with the Atlanta Hawks. How do you feel?
All right. Well, the Hawks' top 5 scorers last season all were 22 and younger. So it's not likely that they needed an influx of youth. But by choosing Okongwu, they have had more experience than developed offensive player in Obi Toppin, who ended up going to the New York Knicks. But one could say it was a bit too much like John Collins. Okongwu became more attractive to teams after Bam Adebayo and how he showed deep in his ideal small center to carry a team. As you know, Adebayo led the Miami Heat all the way to the NBA Finals. Okongwu can bring an institution of a defense that lacks in some key areas. Plus, LSU's Skylar Mays is a solid athlete that's capable of a worthy second-round pick. For me, Anthony, it was a B+ for the Atlanta Hawks. So it is yours.
I only wish Michael Bullock was here for this next pick because this is his team, the Boston Celtics, and boy did they impress last year, going all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals. And they had 3 selections, and they drafted at number 14 Aaron Nesmith, number 26 Peyton Pritchard, and number 47 Yam Madar. So MF, how did Mr. Bullock's team do here?
It's not as simple as if you can shoot, you can play. But if you can shoot and play, you're going to be in demand in this NBA. Aaron Nesmith was the best available shooter in the draft and was available for the Celtics to pick him at number 14. It was the perfect opportunity for the Celtics. Still, searching for the last 1 or 2 pieces that can push him over the top and get him to the NBA Finals, the first round pick, Peyton Pritchard of Oregon, is a warrior who is a very dynamic and underrated player who at worst would be an ideal backup point guard. Second rounder, Yam Merritt, figures to continue to play overseas as he develops. They were one of my winners, Anthony. A- for the Boston Celtics. It is yours.
The draft's best shooter is headed to Boston and Aaron Nesmith, and that should terrify the Eastern Conference. He's an immediate injection of offensive punch who can catch, shoot, and score at an elite level. The Celtics also added depth at point guard in 2 ways. First, with a veteran college guard in Peyton Pritchard, and later with a developmental talent in Yam Madar. The position desperately needed depth, and Boston adequately addressed it. And I actually agree with you, MF. I also have A minus for the Boston Celtics. So Michael Bullock, be encouraged. That's all there is to say. Next up, the Brooklyn Nets, and they only had one pick, and that was at number 57. They drafted Reggie Perry. The Nets were active on draft night, trading for Mississippi State big man Reggie Perry, and also acquired Landry Shamet in exchange for the number 19 overall pick. All told, it's a strong night. Shamet gives the Nets a lights-out shooter to pair next to Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, and Perry is a productive big who could be a rotational center because of his rebounding instincts. Nice pluck late in the draft at a position that ideally you don't want to spend a ton of draft capital on. B plus is my grade for the Brooklyn Nets. So MF, your thoughts?
With only a single pick to spend, and that and one of four being in the very end of the draft, it was a very difficult to do much better than they did. But getting Mississippi State's Reggie Perry, a big, productive, committed power forward who has played internationally for the USA Basketball Under-19 World Championships, and was a successful part of two successful runs as a Georgia Bulldog team. He will rebound his position and complete what is shown a perimeter shooting skill. The question is how comfortable he can defend in the perimeter. That's one little thing that's kind of his weakness. He doesn't like to go out in the paint area. He kind of likes to camp down near the basket. That's why he gets a lot of the good rebounding. But to push him out of the paint area, can you do that? He doesn't like to do that. That might be one thing that shooters and players who love to use the pick and roll might want to go after. But I agree. B plus. Anthony, it's yours.
And we move on to the team that that a lot of the experts consider the big winners of this NBA draft, the Charlotte Hornets. And they selected at number 3, LaMelo Ball. Number 32, Vernon Carey Jr. Number 42, Nick Richards via the New Orleans Pelicans. And at number 56, Grant Riller. MF, the Charlotte Hornets. A lot of the experts said they were the big winners. Do you agree with them?
They had most of the draft universe available to them at number 3, and they opted to select LaMelo Ball, a player who has massive holes on his resume and in his game. I heard an analyst say he'll be among the best passers in the league the moment he steps on the floor. That's true. So Ricky Rubio, when he joined in the NBA with the Timberwolves in 2011, got 4,387 assists in 11 playoff careers. That's games, not seasons. Ball has some issues, like Rubio. Not a good defender, not a shooter. Ball made 25% of three-pointers and 45% on twos when he was in Australia. He can be spectacular, but it's often in defeat. The Hornets did also upgrade Sharp with a lot of good second-round picks, like Vernon Carey from Duke. I know him very well. A wide body with a shooting touch. Nick Richards of Kentucky, a versatile and dynamic big man. And of course, Grant Ritter of Charleston, who is actually known as an elite shooter. So I mean, you got some really good depth, some really good assets. I don't think there's much to say about this, Anthony. I agree. They were one of the big winners. A for me. It's yours.
I think they were the big winners for me. Michael Jordan went and did his thing last Wednesday night. He got the top-rated prospect on the big board in LaMelo Ball at number 3. And to shore up the center position, he added a pair of blue chippers in Duke's Vernon Carey Jr. and Kentucky's Nick Richards. But wait, there's more. The Hornets also added 4-year mid-major star Grant Riller, a lethal creator at the point guard position, who could be a sixth man or even playoff ball because of his scoring efficiency. Talented offensive weapon at every level. Slight disagreement. I'm going all the way. I'm pulling the trigger. A+ for the Charlotte Hornets. So not much more to say. Let's move on. The Chicago Bulls up next. They had 2 picks. They drafted at number 4, Patrick Williams, and at number 44, Marko Simonovic. All right. I get it, Bulls fans. You think the Pat Williams pick was a reach, but you're wrong. Williams for months now has been steadily rising as teams watch more tape on him. And despite not being a college starter, he has the physical tools, size, and defensive playmaking to be one of the draft's big booms. He was clearly a top 5 player in this class if you were drafting on upside. He'll take some time to develop, but Chicago had a nice draft led by him and polished off by Serbian big man Marko Simonovic. He's another developmental prospect with great fluidity and mobility for his position, who presents some real long-term upside. B+ for the Chicago Bulls. So MF, the Bulls, how'd they do?
Well, Anthony, the Bulls certainly made the surprise pick of the draft with Patrick Williams. Was a reserve at Florida State in his only season and scored single digits in the majority of the ACC games. It's hard to remember a player that came off the bench in college who would become a top 5 pick in the NBA draft and then smash such a selection would pretend. Forward Marvin Williams went second to the Hawks in 2005. The Bulls fan can relax in the knowledge that there is no Chris Paul or Darren Williams available in the draft. I agree for the most part. I kind of feel like this is more B- for me. I like the pick though. I mean, look, I did get to see him because, in college basketball, I follow a lot of ACC. ACC is my home. That's my domain. That's where I kind of make camp and just settle there. I think it was a good pick. I like the pick as well. I was a little hesitant about it too, because I kind of feel like we needed other areas of need. More a low post presence, a more big guy. But I think at the way of it, and plus with the body of work that he was developing, and I was hearing a lot of great things about him, especially in his pro day, especially in the pro day and in these workouts leading up to the draft, which was very, very limited. Remember, there was no combine this year, and you were very limited on pro days or opportunities to show out to the teams of the NBA. So hopefully he works out for Chicago. We'll wait and see. I mean, there's still some work to be done, but I do have trust in the new ownership. I got trust in the GM, and I also have a lot of trust in Billy Donovan, the new head coach of Chicago Bulls. So, nothing more to say. Anthony, it's yours.
Let me move on to the Cleveland Cavaliers. Only 1 pick. They came at number 5. They drafted Isaac Okoro out of Auburn. So MF, how Cleveland, your grade with this only pick?
All right. Is defense a luxury or a necessity? For a team that's looking to build something resembling an NBA rotation, it's hard to understand why the Cavaliers would invest in a player with such limited offensive game, like Isaac Okoro. Even if he's almost certain to be a perimeter defender in the draft, if he is joining a functional team that's looking to add the final touches to a playoff-bound roster, then his selection would be ideal. But the Cavaliers were terrible last year, and now they got to figure out how to incorporate someone who opponents will dare to take long-distance shots against them. This was a reach. I didn't like this. C minus. I'm sorry. Anthony, it's yours.
Um, I gotta disagree with this. I mean, I like this pick actually. I don't just like it; I love it. The Cavaliers are clearly making an effort to maximize their young backcourt with the addition of Isaac Okoro. He's a switchable defensive wing with a high IQ who should be able to help unlock some of the potential of Darius Garland and Colin Sexton. It was just one pick, but Cleveland went the safe route to find a player with a high floor who can play right away. Actually, no. I'm actually going to go with them. I'm actually going to meet MF in the middle here. I'm going to give it a solid C for the effort because you went safe. So I actually couldn't believe some experts actually called this an A pick. Yeah, I don't think so. I disagree vehemently. So, but let's move on to our next team. That team is the Dallas Mavericks. They had 3 picks. They selected at number 18, Josh Green, number 31, Tyrell Terry, and number 36, Tyler Bay, by way of the Philadelphia 76ers. The Mavericks added shooting and defense, 2 things that fit perfectly alongside Luka Doncic and Kristaps Porzingis. Green has a ton of upside as a 3-and-D wing. Terry is one of the most exciting off-the-dribble three-point shooters in the class and was talked about as a first-round talent. Bay is an active, versatile defender who should have a shot at cracking the roster. Dallas added to its bright young future with pieces that can also help them win in the short term. A- for the Dallas Mavericks. MF, your thoughts?
Slight disagreement, but not by much. I'll be honest. I watched a lot of Arizona last year, and Josh Green's only season in college rarely saw a difference-making player, particularly when it gets close and contentious. So many Wildcat games did last year. He shot 36% from three-point range on low value, but he's obviously dynamic, and there's nothing wrong with his shooting form. There is a potential for it to be effective in that area. It just seems to ought to be more of a first-round wing. Terrell Terry, though, is a first-round talent that was available in the second, and that was a major steal. B for me. B plus is what I give it. Slight disagreement. Anthony, it's yours.
Denver Nuggets, who went all the way to the Western Conference Finals this past season. They're up next. They had 2 picks. They drafted at number 22, Zeke Anaji out of Arizona. And at number 24, they selected RJ Hampton from the New Orleans Pelicans via the Milwaukee Bucks. So MF, you talked about Arizona. Here's another Arizona kid in the Najee, and RJ Hampton from New Orleans via Milwaukee. Denver Nuggets. How they do here?
I thought Arizona Zeke Anaji made an error in leaving college for the draft because he left so much potential unexplored, risking him to get dipped into the second round, but it worked out for him. Now he joins a high functional organization and will not require to be immediately performed as a complete player, which he is not. Najee is an elite defender that never more than that. He'll be useful for the Nuggets, and they could afford to take a chance on RJ Hampton, a promising talent whose best position remains somewhat of an issue. We'll see how that plays out. B for the Denver Nuggets for me. Anthony, it's yours.
We actually agree. Solid B. Most draft evaluators thought Nanaji was a bit of a reach at 22, and while his offensive skills are tantalizing, he has a lot of work to do to play NBA postseason level defense. Hampton was listed at number 18 on the board, so Denver did well to swoop him up after a rough season in Australia. Overall, Hampton could turn into a special scorer, and Nanaji could be a capable big man, but neither will likely contribute right away, and that's fine with the Nuggets. Solid B, I 100% agree. The Detroit basketball Pistons come at you next. 4 picks. They drafted at number 7, they drafted Killian Hayes. Number 16, they acquired Isaiah Stewart via the Portland Trailblazers. Number 19, Sadiq Bey via the Brooklyn Nets. And number 38, Saban Lee via the Utah Jazz. The Pistons were plenty active on draft night, and the biggest acquisition here is number 7 pick Killian Hayes. Hayes gives the team a point guard for the franchise to build around long term because of his 6'5" frame, passing instincts, and shot creation. And to top it off, Detroit added 3-and-D wings Sadiq Bey, backup guards Saban Lee, and young big man Isaiah Stewart to surround him. Well done, Pistons. Well done. Solid A for me. So, MF, our old friends, the Detroit basketball Pistons, solid A from me. What do you say?
All right. Well, for Detroit, analysts were falling more in love with Calvin Hayes. The closer, he came to the draft, even though he wasn't able to do much to address the two biggest concerns in his game: over-reliance on the left hand and a suspect jump shot. But the Pistons took him over Tyrese Halliburton, who was fewer such concerns. Isaiah Stewart of Washington offers rim protection and physical without sacrificing the ability to defensively on the perimeter. And Sacramento Bay, an elite shooter competitor who was a steal in the draft at the 19th overall pick. You said Anthony. Slight disagreement, not by much. Slight disagreement. A- for the Detroit basketball Pistons. Anthony, it's yours.
And MF, you'll be leading off on our next team, which is the Golden State Warriors. They drafted at number 2, James Wiseman. Number 48, Nico Mannion, another Arizona.
Yep.
And at number 51, Justinian Jessup. So MF, the Golden State Warriors, for the last several years, they were, the face of the league. They dominated. They got to the finals almost every year, won several titles. Last year, they actually, believe it or not, fell on some hard times. Is this the year they get back to the dominance?
Unfortunately, Anthony, it might not, because of the fact that, if you already know, Klay Thompson is already out for next year.
That's right.
Tore his Achilles tendon during a pickup game about a week ago, suffered that injury, and down he went. Devastating blow, devastating injury. Unfortunately, and plus, what is Steph Curry going to look like? He's coming off an injury himself that basically sidelined him for the entire year last year as well. So I don't know how this plays out. But I will say this. For the draft, they picked 2 extremely talented teams. But they'll have to push both Memphis James Wiseman and Arizona Nico Mannion to reach their potential. Routinely dissolved at crunch time for the Wildcat, with significant factors in the team's inability to win big. Wiseman didn't stick around for those leaving the Tigers who were playing. He did get in trouble 3 times and serving most of the NCAA suspension. Wiseman is a pure talent in the draft, where the other guy would have been a first-round lock if it wasn't for his for some of the meltdowns that he had. It's possible that the two might be long-term starters in the realm, but for me, it's an A- for the Golden State Warriors. I think they did very well. There is a little bit of, I don't want to say seeds of doubt, but we'll have to wait to see how it plays out. Nothing more to say. Florio, it's yours.
Yeah. Slight disagreement here. Solid B for me. After all the discussion about trading the number 2 pick, the Warriors went with Wiseman, who fills an immediate need as a lob threat and rim protector, but has all NBA upside. Mannion, a promising point guard, and Jessup, one of the best shooters in the draft, need some time to develop. But the Warriors have had great success cultivating talent through the G League. Solid B for the Golden State Warriors. Next up, the Houston Rockets. They only had one pick, and it came at number 52. Kenyon Martin Jr. via the Sacramento Kings. Oh yeah, that's right. I start. So it seems like the Rockets never have draft picks, but they were able to get Martin, the son of the former NBA player of the same name, via trade. Martin is a tremendous athlete, but his shot needs some serious work, and he probably won't be able to contribute for a while. But in terms of second-round gambles, it isn't the worst idea for an apparently rebuilding team. B- for the Houston Rockets. So MF, Houston Rockets, they drafted Kenyon Martin's kid. What do you think? MF, are you there? I don't know what happened to MF. I don't know if he had to step away or anything, but yeah, B- is my grade for the Kenyon Martin pick for Houston. I mean, we'll have to wait and see, but we'll just keeping an eye out for when MF comes back in, but and we'll get his thoughts on it, and then we'll continue on. So yeah. Let me see here. He came from the IMG Academy, and Sacramento initially had him, but they traded him to Houston. The number 52 pick, it went to the Houston Rockets, and Kenyon Martin Jr. was selected. And we'll have to wait and see. I mean, he's got big shoes to fill. His father, was a great player, especially his college ball days in Cincinnati and everything else. And we'll just have to wait and see if he's the chip off the old block. So we'll only time will tell. So it's going to be a solid B- for me for Kenyon Martin Jr. as he was selected. Okay, MF is back in, so we didn't want any dead air. So all right, MF, Kenyon Martin Jr. to Houston. What do you think?
B-. I'm just gonna make it short and sweet. You were right. The Rockets did not pick until the draft was nearly over. The second round choice of Kenyon Martin Jr. cut short his potential by choosing to spend the last year at IMG Academy instead of enrolling in Vanderbilt, which produced a first rounder, and two draft picks overall. However, he is powerful, electric forward who has much work to do to become a long-term pro. But like you said, Anthony, he does have a very amazing individual that he could look up to. Kenyon Martin was a dominant force in the NBA. He played really well and was a very big vocal point of the New Jersey Nets for a number of years.
Absolutely.
Especially with him and Jason Kidd and that team. They were always in the mix. This was when New Jersey was actually a relevant team. They never got to the NBA.
Twice.
Yeah, they got to the NBA Finals twice in back-to-back years. So
02 and 03.
And he was part of that squad. So yeah, he does have some good quality players. And actually, I think the last time I saw Kenyon Martin, he was playing for the Big Three. The Big Three basketball that's Ice Cube's league. He plays for that too. So I actually got to see him play in Providence. He was in Providence when that went down. And yeah, he still balls too. He's still a good player.
I'm sure he does. And yeah, they were the New Jersey Nets back in the day, and back-to-back years, 2002 and 2003, they got to the NBA Finals. Unfortunately, they didn't win either of those years. 02, they lost to the Shaq and Kobe Lakers, and then the following year they lost to the Twin Towers of Tim Duncan and the Admiral David Robinson, and they sent David Robinson out a champion, which still gets me to this day. So that was a special moment on Father's Day, especially. Oh my God, that's enough. So All right. All that aside, we both agree B minus. So let's. Well, it's only fitting MF starts on this next one because the Indiana Pacers. Well, it's not his team. It's because of who they picked. They picked a Dookie, and we all know how much. We all know how much MF loves the Dookies, baby. Yeah, he certainly does.
Yeah, I love the Dookie so much. We're not even playing this week because of stupid COVID.
Such a shame.
I know.
But I know they got I know they got the big one against Michigan State in about a week or so. So
Well, I hope
hopefully they'll
that
be ready.
game goes down. I hope that goes down because that will be a game.
Yep, and I know you'll be all over that one like you always are,
Yep.
especially with the Big Ten ACC challenge. But anywho, Indiana Pacers, they had one pick, number 54, Cassius Stanley out of the Dukies. So MF, what do you know about this kid?
Well, Cassius Stanley. Well, I'm gonna say this. Cassius Stanley. Basically was a unknown. A lot of people ignored him. They didn't really think that he was going to be there at all. However, he was a steal for the Pacers. Stanley is an above the rim wing who shoots 31 out of 86 three-point shots in his only season in college, where he's not Steph Curry territory. Neither does it indicate that there's no hope. To me, it was a B plus move to get him because, like I said, he kind of if he gets the opportunity to shoot those threes, he could be a JJ Redick. He could be, Duke is notorious for having elite 3-point shooters. That's the one thing that's really transitioned in their game when it comes to Duke is that 3-point shooting. JJ Redick had it. Mike Dunleavy, when he played, had it. There's a few guys that when they play for Duke, you get the low perimeter guys, you get the streaky shooters, and then you get the guys who basically you do not want to leave behind the 3-point line because 9 times out of 10 he's gonna bury it on you. Cassius Stanley is one of those guys. Think about back in the day, another great Indiana Pacer. I don't know, he's a Hall of Famer named Reggie Miller.
Oof.
Yeah, I mean, if he starts doing what Reggie does, bombing threes like that, and to pair him with a guy like Victor Oladipo, oh, Indiana's gonna be a sneaky team next year. That's all I'm saying.
Certainly. Yeah, they certainly will. Indiana had just one pick in the draft, but made it count by scooping up Duke one and done Cassius Stanley. Stanley wasn't a traditional Duke one and done. He was a role player who played off the ball and thrived primarily as a defender, but he's a nice 3-and-D addition with tremendous athleticism and defensive versatility. It's tough to find players who check those boxes at this point in the draft. So it's a solid A for the Indiana Pacers. Did you give you a grade, MF?
I said B plus initially, so yeah, B plus
Okay.
is my call.
Solid A. How about that? And I'm not even the Dookie guy. So, but yeah, Duke. And next week, Duke scheduled to play against Michigan State, and on top of that, Kentucky against Kansas. 2 MF specials right back to back.
Mount Rushmore's.
Get the powder blue blazer ready, big boy.
That's
all
I will. I got it somewhere lying in my room. I'll get it. I'll get it next week.
I know you will. I can't wait. You, Bay, and Air Carrier. I know you guys will be all over that. So, all right. LA Clippers, all kidding aside, LA Clippers, they're up next. They had 2 picks. Number 33, they selected Daniel Otoru from the New York Knicks via the Minnesota Timberwolves. And at number 55, Jay Scrubb was the pick. So it's clear that the Clippers needed another big option, and Otoru is intriguing as a rim protector with the ability to step out and hit 3-pointers. Scrubb was a bit of an anomaly coming from junior college, but he has clear skill as a scorer and pick-and-roll operator. The Clippers weren't going to solve all their problems through the draft, but they picked up a couple assets that could be useful down the road. For all you WWE fans, you remember the Authority used to throw these words around. Solid B. It's a solid B for the LA Clippers. MF, you remember the Clippers last year? They came so close, but yet so far away. Do they get? Do these young men give them a chance next year?
No, Anthony, and I think this is like maybe the third time tonight, but I agree with you. Solid B. The Clippers were no longer a team without a first round pick. They got a first round talent in Daniel Ataru of Minnesota, and has a sort of perimeter offense skill that teams demand in a modern big nowadays. He's also mobile enough and eventually could be a starter, possible. That's the question that kept on the board for the Clippers to land him at number 33. I wonder if he's confused fluidity with mobility though. That remains to be seen. But no, you're right. Solid beat for me, and there's really nothing more to say. So, yeah, it's all yours.
Well, the Lakers didn't really do anything.
No picks.
Well, there is one small thing that I do need to address when it comes to them. Your reigning and defending undisputed NBA champion Los Angeles Lakers. They gave up the number 28 pick, which turned out to be Jaden McDaniels in the Dennis Schrader trade. So the champs sat out the 2020 draft. So this is obviously going to be an automatic NA, like we usually do on our wrestling shows whenever matches end with a clunky finish. So we're just going to move on from the Lakers, and MF, you'll start up on the next team following them. And that team's the Memphis Grizzlies. 2 picks. Number 30, Desmond Bane from the Boston Celtics, and number 35, Xavier Tillman, Michigan State young man from the Sacramento Kings. So MF, you're great for the Memphis Grizzlies.
Well, my grade for them is a B plus. Desmond Bane will carry him with the shooting touch that allowed him a 43% from distance in his career, and it's hard to see him being anything than a useful player. Nothing less than a useful player. He'll be comfortable enough on the ball and perhaps function in a second team unit. The Grizzlies got a steal though when they got Xavier Tillman, who's guard the three front court positions and has a complete package of a face to the basket offensive skill. Comparing him with John Morant, who they got a year ago, the number 2 overall pick. B plus for the Memphis Grizzlies. Way to go, guys. Well done. Anthony, it's yours.
It's going to be a little bit of a disagreement here, MF. I'll give you that in a minute. If the Memphis Grizzlies hit a grand slam with Jay Morant and Brandon Clark last year, consider this an RBI triple. Bane is one of the best shooters in the draft and was ranked number 22 on the big board, while Tillman is a winning player with tremendous defensive upside and sneaky playmaking ability. Up-and-coming Memphis made some more good moves on draft night. Solid A for the Memphis Grizzlies. Very impressive. Next up, your reigning and defending Eastern Conference champions, the Miami Heat. 1 pick, they selected at number 20, Precious Achiuwa out of the University of Memphis. Pat Riley, that Wiley dog, made quite possibly the best use of his only draft pick. Achiuwa is a perfect scheme fit because of his switchability on defense and next level athleticism. Miami will be able to switch at almost every position with Bam Adebayo and Achiuwa in the mix. A- for the Miami Heat. So MF, how do you feel about the Eastern Conference champs only pick?
Well, I mean, I'm going to openly say I slightly disagree with you. But I think that he's an ideal choice at number 20. He's overwhelmingly physical and plays with a lot of passion. If he wants to become a starter here or elsewhere, the one big liability he is not a good free throw shooter. He's got to work on that. He's got to clean that up a little bit. He does average about 60% from the charity stripe, and that is not good. You got to get better, especially nowadays in the NBA. You got to average about maybe 70% to be a good player. 60 will not cut it. You're not Shaquille O'Neal, bro. Do not be like that. Do not brick every chance you get. You're not gonna last very long in the NBA. B plus for me. Anthony, it's yours.
And up next, the Milwaukee Bucks. Milwaukee Bucks had 2 picks. They selected at number 45 Jordan Nwora. I'm trying to pronounce the name right. I have a tough time with these African Kenyan names here.
Yeah,
They're very tough to
I
pronounce.
think it's Anora. I think it's actually.
I think it's Nwora. I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
But number 45 Jordan Nwora from Louisville. And at number 60, Sam Merrill out of Utah State via the New Orleans Pelicans. So MF, I mean, speaking of so close yet so far away, the LA Clippers are that team in the West. As far as who that team is in the East, it's hands down the Milwaukee Bucks. Will this finally be the year with these young men coming in?
Oh man, I gotta give it a solid B for them. I think what they did was all right. They acknowledged that they needed to grab the best shooter available for them, so that's when they got Enora from Louisville and from getting Sam Morrell. That their chances to find the rotation got with lots of everything except the shooting. That's a solid B for me. I thought they did pretty good. It was good, not great. I'll give it a B. Florio, it's yours.
If you were to call out 2 players who would be great additions for this roster next to Giannis, chances are you'd probably wind up with the 2 players Milwaukee drafted. Jordan Nwora is an elite outside shooter with a quick release who can space the floor and Coach Bud's system, and Merrill is a similar talent. Merrill is a career 42% three-point shooter, while Nwora, as a lead man on an ACC team last season, made 40.2% of his outside looks. Slight disagreement, solid A for the Milwaukee Bucks. Next up, the Minnesota Timberwolves. And they had 3 picks, including the number 1 pick in the draft. And they selected Anthony Edwards out of the Made in Georgia Bulldogs. Number 23, Leandro Bolmero out of Argentina by way of the New York Knicks. And at number 28, Jaden McDaniels out of the University of Washington from the Oklahoma City Thunder and via the NBA champion LA Lakers. Edwards was clearly the best fit for the Wolves out of the top 3 prospects, and he has all NBA scoring potential, but he's anything but a sure thing. Bolmero and McDaniels are both exciting young prospects, but none of Minnesota's picks do anything to address its atrocious defense. I got to be a little tougher here. B- for the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Well,
so, what do you say, MF?
Minnesota. Well, I like the first overall pick with Anthony Edwards as the guy. However, I don't think that they did anything other that was really relevant with their remaining picks. I just don't see it. I'm sorry, Anthony. I'm sorry, Minnesota, for what I'm about to do. C plus is my rating. I know, maybe a little harsh. Anthony, it's yours.
No, fair enough. Understandable. Next up, the New Orleans Pelicans. 1 pick. They drafted at number 13, Kyra Lewis Jr. or Kyra Lewis Jr. out of the University of Alabama. So MF, how do you feel about this pick for New Orleans?
A minus. And the reason why is that we're talking about a draft player. Teams weren't much graded on the curve as the advantage for the opportunity, but the Pelicans found fortune with their first-rate point guard prospect and Kyra Lewis available at number 13 for them. The way that they the great grade to seize the opportunity and have already got Lonzo Ball there. They shouldn't have a success so successful to afford stacking players at one position. So if they do, it's a great situation that they got right now. He's a subsequent move that can also shoot, that can run a team, defend, and actually is developed as a pretty good shooter as well. A minus for me. Anthony, it's yours.
New Orleans traded away 3 of its 4 picks, but Lewis is a great fit as a lightning quick point guard with scoring, playmaking, and shooting ability. It will be fun to watch him alongside Zion Williamson and Brandon Ingram. Solid A for the New Orleans Pelicans. Next up, the New York Knicks. Always a spectacle on draft night. 2 picks. They selected at number 8, Obi Toppin out of the University of Dayton. And number 25, they selected Emmanuel Quickly out of the University of Kentucky. 2020 really is completely upside down land because the Knicks in their new front office made some shrewd selections on draft night. Toppin is a winning addition, a guy who won National Player of the Year honors at Dayton. He can space the floor as a shooter, but plays above the rim too. And Quickly is a long guard coming off season in which he made 42.8% of his threes and has some of the best touch on his jumper that you'll see from any guard. Not only did they not screw this up, they were actually brilliant for once. Solid B for the New York Knicks. So MF, I mean, I know a lot has been made about the Knicks. I know they've been in hard times, purgatory for many years.
Yep.
Could these two young men finally be the answer in New York?
I don't think they'll be the answer. I think they're just good fill gaps, but you got the best, what I believe was the best player in the draft by getting Obi Toppin, who was literally consensus National Player of the Year last year.
Yep.
For a Dayton team that many people believed if the tournament would have been held, Dayton probably would have been the odds-on favorite to win the national championship.
Definitely.
Like, they were that good last year, and it's a damn shame the COVID hit when it did. And we lost the tournament because Toppin probably would have been a bona fide superstar. As a matter of fact, I'll even go as far to say it. If the tournament would have happened and Toppin would have played the way he played, we'd be talking about Obi Toppin as the number 1 player coming out of the draft.
Certainly.
He would have been the number 1 overall pick. Yes, but for the New York Knicks to get him where they got him, that's an absolute steal. They won the draft for me. This was an A for the New York Knicks. So, no, I disagree with you. I'm going to go with an A for the Knicks because of the Toppin pick more than anything else. It's yours.
Can you imagine that young man in Madison Square Garden?
Oh. And he's box office, man. I think Stephen A. Smith said it best. He's a primetime player. He's box office. He's a great player. But the one thing that the Knicks are a little too much on is a lot of forwards. That's the one big thing. You need a guard. They didn't address that. I think that was one of the big problems that the Knicks had, was that they need to address the guard play. But I think right now they did themselves good by getting the best player available. But they kind of, yikes. Nothing more to say. Floyo, it's yours.
I know. I mean, that young man in MSG. Oh my goodness, that's gonna be fun to watch. And that Dayton team. Oh man, you know me and the chalk, and the number 1 overall team. That team very easily could have been the number 1 overall seed in the tournament if we had it, and they definitely would have been a favorite to win it all. And it's a damn shame because that team, let me tell you, they were so damn fun to watch, especially that kid alone. All right. Oklahoma City Thunder is next. We have 3 picks for them. All foreigners. Number 17, Alexei Pugusevsky out of Serbia. Number 34, Theo Maledon from France. by way of the Philadelphia 76ers, and number 37, Vit Krejci out of the Czech Republic. So,
No.
MF, judging by all the no-no-nos, MF.
OKC, what did you do? What did you do? Why did you go the Euro route? Why did you go internationals? You didn't find any good homegrown talent in the USA? I mean, you reached on all three of these guys. I don't see any resemblance for Vit Krejci, who averages only 3.2 points a game. When you get a guy like Proseski, who seems more reckless than visionary, he's not even NBA ready. He doesn't have a body of an NBA player. Oh man, you know what? I'm gonna do it. I gotta pull the trigger. F. The worst grade you can get. This was an absolute failure if you're the Oklahoma City Thunder. The biggest losers of the draft night for me. Nothing more to say. Anthony, it's yours.
The grade is an F, but I'm going to give him a B plus for the effort. I mean, the Thunder's international scouts clearly put their work in as OKC came away with 3 Europeans. Pokusevski is already a darling of NBA Twitter with his guard skills in a lithe 7-foot frame, while Maladon was groomed by former NBA champion Tony Parker. Krejci came almost completely out of nowhere, but a 6'8" point guard is always worth a look. These are 3 solid yet unspectacular pieces to kick off the rebuild if that's the direction OKC decides to go. So this is going to be a double grade here. B plus for the effort, but overall, I agree with MF. These were the biggest losers, no pun intended, from the show. So it's a solid F. That's all there is to say on that. But I am going to give him a B plus for the effort. So Orlando Magic is next. They had 1 pick, and they selected at number 15, Cole Anthony out of the University of North Carolina. The Magic lack creators on offense and depth at point guard, so the addition of Cole Anthony is a twofer. He's a combo guard who can create and can not only make shots, but can make tough shots. On the move, running off screens, pulling up off the bounce, he's an all-around weapon who will help this Magic team on offense. Solid B. MF, I mean, I think you know a little about this young man because of your ACC ties. So,
yeah, absolutely. What do you think about Cole Anthony is a very good player, and I know one of our very own, Mr. Avery, was very high on Cole Anthony as well. He was actually hoping that he would have fell to the Boston Celtics, but he did not. He fell to Orlando, and I'm gonna say it, B plus for Orlando because of Cole Avery. I think Cole Anthony. He was a really good player, very exciting, dynamic, no doubts about it. I'm pretty happy with the pick, so I got nothing more to say. It's yours.
All right, Philadelphia 76ers are up next. 3 picks. But these are traditional picks out of college, 3 recognizable colleges, as a matter of fact. Philly selected at number 21, Tyrese Maxey out of the University of Kentucky. Number 49, Isaiah Joe from the University of Arkansas, state of Sorrel Country. And number 58, Paul Reed out of DePaul. So MF, OKC selected 3 Euros. Philly selected 3 college talents. How did this go down for you?
Well, I'm gonna say it. I was very hard on OKC. I gotta praise Philly for this. A for the Philadelphia 76ers.
Yes.
I think they absolutely pulled a perfect draft. They got the best available point guard that they got with Moxie at 21. He's a playmaker. He probably will work very well with Ben Simmons. Then you got Isaiah Joe, who basically topped 300 career 3-pointers, 200 career 3-pointers. He's also a really good, exciting guy as well. And then to get Paul Reed, who's honestly, who is pretty, I honestly think is a first-round talent. Didn't get there, got in second round, but my goodness, what a steal for Philly. A. Nothing more to say, man. It's yours.
A smidgen of a disagreement. Smidgen. You said solid A. I'm pulling the trigger. A plus. That's how I feel. But then again, look who's running the ship down there. A guy who ran the Houston Rockets very successfully for a long time. Daryl Morey. I think we all know who that is. He's now running things for Philly, and I'll tell you, Daryl Morey. He's barely been on the job in Philly long enough to stake out the best cheesesteak spots, but boy, did he have himself a night on draft night. Maxey was a surprise follow to 21, who the 76ers wisely scooped up. And just as much as MF does, I also love the second round additions of Isaiah Joe and Paul Reed. Two specialists, Joe as a shooter and Reed as a defender. Maxey's creation abilities off the dribble will do wonders for this offense. A plus for the Philadelphia 76ers, one of the winners of the draft here. And coming up next, we have the Phoenix Suns, and they had one pick at number 10, Jalen Smith out of the University of Maryland. Nobody could ever accuse the Suns of going by the book. Last year, they shocked the draft world by taking Cam Johnson 11th overall, which has turned out pretty well, and Smith at 10 might have been even more unexpected. He has tremendous upside on both ends of the floor, but should a team with DeAndre Ayton really take a center at number 10 with some great wing options, Devin Vassell, Tyrese Halliburton, Aaron Nesmith still available? Smith may end up being a good NBA player, but that doesn't mean it was a good pick. I'm sorry. This is a solid D for me. So I know it's probably a bit harsh, but
oh, that's very harsh. No,
gotta be the man who tells it like it is.
No, Anthony, you're wrong. You are so wrong right now. I disagree. No, I disagree with you on this one. Is the Jalen Smith a bad pick? Oh, heck no. A franchise that's been wandering aimlessly for better more than a decade is starting to understand what a difference is to make with high character players on a roster who plays winning basketball. Smith, who is so committed to Maryland's success and never complained about being deployed out of the center position, was well paid off in the Big Ten championship. He was a pain for opposing bigs in that role because he guarded his position and did it exceptionally well, exceptionally well at the pick and pop. The only question is whether Phoenix could have traded down and still got him at that position. I disagree with you, Anthony. This was a B plus for me for the pick. You know, I got really nothing more to say, so it's yours.
Fair enough. Probably because I didn't see much of them, but you know, it is what it is. Let's move on to our next pick. The Portland Trail Blazers. One pick, number 46. They selected CJ Ellaby out of Washington State. MF, are you high on this one as you were on that last one?
B minus. It was a second round pick, but they got a high scoring CJ Ellaby. He has the chance to be an exceptional shooter, but will have to prove himself that he can defend at the NBA level. Good shooter, a little questionable on his defense though, but B minus for me. So Florio, it's yours.
Another smidgen of a disagreement. I'm going to go with just a smidge lower, C plus. The Blazers traded the number 16 pick in the Robert Covington deal, so that left them with Ellaby, a prolific but inefficient scorer in the second round. There were still some solid options available when the Blazers took them, so Portland could have done better in adding to its wing depth. C plus for me. Next up, the Sacramento Kings. They had three picks rather. Number 12, Tyrese Halliburton out of Iowa State. Number 40, Robert Woodard from Mississippi State by way of the Memphis Grizzlies. And number 43, Jamius Ramsey out of Texas Tech. Monty McNair's first draft with the Kings was a rousing success, and it started by snatching up a falling Halliburton, who was ranked 6th in the CBS Sports prospect rankings. Sacramento followed that up with Woodard, a tremendous defensive wing prospect, and Ramsey, a straight bucket getter and knockdown three-point shooter. This was a great start for the new regime in Sacramento. Solid A for the Sacramento Kings. MF, what do you say?
Slight disagreement, not by much, just a little. A minus But I do agree with everything that you did say, Anthony, so it is yours.
All right. And next up, it is the San Antonio Spurs. Two picks. A couple of ACC guys for you, MF. Number 11, they selected Devin Vassell out of Florida State. And at number 41, they selected another Dookie, Trey Jones. So, MF, what do you know about these young men?
Both men are versatile. Both men are explosive. Each are top defenders, great defensive players. That's exactly what San Antonio has always been. You know what? Greg Popovich, I don't know what it is about you, man. You get fine like red wine, my brother. You whatever you do, every time San Antonio does an NBA draft, they're like the New England Patriots. We just shake our heads, we marvel at them because every single year they get better and better and better. And trust me, they won this draft again. A for the San Antonio Spurs. Anthony, it's yours.
Solid A. I agree. We're not used to seeing the Spurs in the lottery, but they didn't miss a beat by drafting Vassell, who might have the most upside of all the 3 and D prospects in the draft. They also swooped up Jones, a first-round talent in the rankings at number 41, and it's hard to imagine him failing in San Antonio's system, led by, of course, the great Greg Popovich. Solid A for me. I 100% agree with that. We have 3 teams left, and we're moving on to the now former NBA champions, the Toronto Raptors. They had 2 picks. Number 29, they selected Malachi Flynn out of San Diego State. And at number 59, they selected Jalen Harris out of the University of Nevada. So here we go. Toronto's never been afraid to take a stab at undersized guards. In fact, between Fred VanVleet and Kyle Lowry, the Raptors have practically copyrighted it. That's why I love the first-round gamble for them with Malachi Flynn. He's not the most physically imposing lead guard, but he's a tough two-way talent who can run the pick and roll and create offense at a high level. Adding Jalen Harris, a combo guard forward who has some creation abilities and can really score it, further cements this class as a solid one. B+ for the former champion Raptors. So, MF, what says you?
Slight disagreement. I'm not going to give it a B+. I'm going to say solid B. But you are absolutely right. Flynn could be a starting point guard in the NBA, possibly not, but the Raptors don't need one at the moment. Flynn is capable of being an elite backup in his position. Absolutely, he controls the game. He can read defenses and make whatever plays can develop, and he wins. He's a good winner as well. There might be better available at number 59 for Harris, but he becomes a pretty good personal taste type guy. If you like what you want, this would be the perfect thing more than anything else. So, slight disagreement. I'm just going to give it a solid B. Anthony, it's yours.
2 teams left, and we move on to our good friend Al Braderson's team, the Utah Jazz. They selected 2 picks. Number 27, Udoka Azubuike out of the University of Kansas, and number 39, Elijah Hughes out of Syracuse, by way of the New Orleans Pelicans. MF, should our good friend Al Braderson be encouraged or discouraged by these picks for his team?
I think, you know what? I'm going to say that I wouldn't be discouraged. I think you did pretty good. It's not the best draft. It's not a home run. But I could say this was a solid double. This was pretty good. I'm going to give this a solid B. I thought they did all right. I think to get Azubuike was a great pick. It was a very solid pick. Dude, this guy's a beast. This guy, another top first-round talent. If he would have gotten an opportunity to play in an NCAA tournament, he would have been a lottery pick. He would have been easily a lottery pick for me. Azubuike, it was a very dominant player, a good shot blocker, very good rebounder, and he's a low post presence that you needed. So to put him with a guy like a Rudy Gobert, and how that could play together, So, no, I thought they did pretty well. This was a solid beat for me. So, Anthony, it's yours.
The Jazz wanted a backup center for Rudy Gobert, but it's hard to see how Azubuike um, fits into the modern NBA given his lack of foot speed and offensive deficiencies. Hughes, a scorer and shooter with defensive upside, is a solid second-round pick, but Azubuike, for me, is a bit of a head-scratcher. Solid C for the Utah Jazz. Final team of the night, the Washington Wizards. 2 picks. They selected at number 9, Deni Avdija out of Israel. And number 53 selected Cassius Winston out of Michigan State. The Wizards did a nice job of letting the board fall to them and being patient. Deni Avdija was a surprise slip to number 9, and they pulled the trigger, giving them a combo forward who can make plays next to Bradley Beal. And Cassius Winston gives the team depth at point guard, which has been a weak spot on the roster. 2 winning players with impressive pass production and pedigree who should upgrade the roster in Washington. Solid A. MF put a bow on this.
And for only maybe the sixth time tonight, it's a full agreement. A. You absolutely are correct, Anthony. Let's call it a night.
Sounds good to me. And that will put the bow on this very special edition of Strictly Sports. And we want to thank you all so very much for tuning in. We will be back with you at this time tomorrow night for one of my favorite shows of the year, or one of our favorite shows of the year. No question about this. Our 9th annual Strictly Sports Football Feast. We will preview all 3 NFL Thanksgiving games, Houston Texans and the Detroit Lions, Washington football team and the Dallas Cowboys, and the big one in prime time. And MF, no big surprise here. It's already been confirmed. This is our game of the week. No big surprise. The Baltimore Ravens and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Only fitting, right? Because Pittsburgh's undefeated. Baltimore's shockingly on the decline. And I know you and I are going to have a lot to say about that tomorrow night for our big one on Thanksgiving night. And we also have the college football slate. Some huge games. And, of course, the college football playoff rankings came out today. And Alabama was 1, Notre Dame was 2, Clemson was 3, and Ohio State was 4. So that's how it stands as of now. So the rest of the list is up there. So huge games. A couple of course, 2 big rivalry games. The Iron Bowl, of course, that's the big one right there. We also have the Civil War, Oregon and Oregon State, Notre Dame and North Carolina, just to name a few. We got a lot of great ones to cover tomorrow night. We're off on Thursday for Thanksgiving. We will have no show on Thanksgiving night, and then we'll be back with you on Friday for a very special edition of the Wrestling Forum, a loaded show. And you could consider this the Wrestling Forum's equivalent of the football feast, if you will, because we're going to be recapping not 1, not 2, but 3 shows: AEW Dynamite, NXT, and our traditional Friday Night SmackDown as part of this special edition of the Cerebral Smack Talk hosted by good old MF Michael Fletcher on Friday night. Saturday, NFL Saturday, we'll recap the Thanksgiving games briefly, and then we will we'll get into the rest of the slate, the Sunday slate for the NFL, headlined by the big showdown between Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady with the Kansas City Chiefs and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Some other good ones as well. And then we start it all over again next week with Ridiculously Raw. So that's it. So until tomorrow night for our football feast, Anthony Floyer here signing off for my elite panel. Good old MF Michael Fletcher, Michael Bullock, Dede Woodson, and of course, always in forever, Derek forever. You know the routine, everybody. Thumbs up. Talk to you later. Yeah, throw it up Fortune 4 style. Bye for now, my friends. God bless. Be good to each other. Have a blessed Wednesday. And until tomorrow night for our football feast, you've been watching this very special edition of Strictly Sports, our 2020 NBA Draft Recap right here on the Tone 25 on YouTube and StreamYard.com. For everybody who's been a part of this one, for now, Anthony Floyer, so long. Bye, everybody. Bye.